City Commission meeting of Tuesday, February 20th, 2018. Let the record show that one commissioner is not present. First item up is the order of business. Mr. Kessel, any changes to the order of business?
President Decker, I would like to suggest we add a Main Street Summit report to item 4C, and I'd also like to request a TR Presidential Library meeting report as well. And then item 6A1 actually requires, it's a grant submittal, and it requires your signature, so that should probably be an action item rather than a report.
Okay. And you said that's 6A1?
Yes,
Okay.
the 2019 NDDOT urban grant submittal.
And then also, Mr. Kessel, I would, and if it's okay with the commission, I'd, under 10, item 10, commission, remove item 2 until we have all commissioners present for that executive session. We'll retain item 1. So. Any questions or comments on the order of business?
Make a motion to accept the order of business as revamped.
We have a motion to accept the amended order of business.
Second.
Any further questions, comments? Not, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Same sign. The order of business is approved. Consent agenda. Is there anything on the consent agenda that commissioners would like to discuss?
Move to approve the consent agenda.
We have a motion to approve the consent agenda
Second.
with a second. Any questions, comments on the consent agenda? Hearing none, we'll vote. Mrs. Trustum?
Aye.
Mr. Altman?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Consent agenda is approved. We have 4 timetable items, so we'll move right along and go to the non-timetable. First item up on the non-timetable is a beer and wine on sale liquor license. Mr. Kessel.
Thank you, President Decker. We have before you a request to have a beer and wine on sale liquor license. It is requested by, and I apologize if I pronounce the name incorrectly, DePorez House Barbering. They are the new owners of Big Sky, formerly known as Big Sky. They'll be moving their operations to the downtown area here, and they would like to try and provide beer and or wine to their customer base. We have had similar situations in the past with regard to spas and salons, so it'd be along that order. This is a new license. They are unlimited in nature. The fees have been paid and the background check has been completed. Nothing of significance to report, and so it'd be our recommendation that the City Commission approve the beer and wine license.
Thank you, Mr. Kessel. Any questions for Mr. Kessel on this beer and wine license?
I'll
We have,
second.
we have a motion to approve.
Second.
A second. Any further discussion, questions? Hearing none, we'll vote. Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Altman?
Aye.
Mrs. Trustum?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. License request is approved. Next item up is a tobacco license. Mr. Kessel?
Thank you, President Decker. This is related to the first item that you just took action on. As I mentioned, they have bought out Big Sky, and so they have an existing tobacco license, and they'll be simply want to change the name from the previous Big Sky ownership name into the new owner, DePorez House Barbering, LLC. So it's simply a change in name.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Kessel. Any questions for Mr. Kessel on this tobacco license?
Mr. President, I would move to approve the tobacco license name change.
We have a motion to approve and a second. Any further questions or comments? Now we'll go ahead and vote. Mrs. Trustum?
Aye.
Mr. Altman?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Tobacco license name change is approved. Next item up is 4B, 2018 Monthly Financial Report, and we have Mr. Maury.
Thank you, President Decker. Today we brought you the financial reports as of December 31st, 2017. This is just an update on the Treasurer's report that you've seen the last couple months. No major changes. The money market account did decrease a little, and that was just based on the outstanding checks in our outstanding check register. We had a larger amount sitting in there that wasn't on the November bank rec. Once we reconcile in December, it shows up in our money market. So that's where that change comes from. With the investments as well, no major changes since the last monthly financial report. Everything is pretty stable, and this is what makes up the $35.2 million that you also see on that bank reconciliation worksheet. Moving on to a monthly breakdown of our 1% sales tax. As you can see, we only have our January collection so far in 2018. Our collection from January of 2018 is down 3% from our collection in January of 2017. And we'll continue adding to this slide as we progress throughout the months in 2018 to give you an idea of how we're trending compared to 2017. And as you are all aware, 0.5% sales tax will be exactly half of what the 1% sales tax will be, so that you'll see the same trend on this slide as well. Moving on to the hospitality tax. We're pretty similar with our January of 2018 collection. We're down about $1,000 from January of 2017, about a 2% decrease. But again, we're right about where we expect to be in that month for this point of the year. And then moving on to our oil impact revenue. As mentioned in last month's financial report, I believe the whole commission is aware that money is being taken out of our oil impact revenue to go to Dickinson State University. So you're seeing that effect here between the January of 2017 collection versus the January of 2018 collection. We're down about 41% for that reason. And I believe, and Mr. Kessler, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I believe June will be the last payment that'll go to DSU.
Mr. Maury, I believe that to be accurate. It'll be, if it's not June, it'll be either May or July, the months surrounding it.
Moving on to a snapshot of the accounts receivable and accounts payable report that you saw in your commission packet. Just a brief overview, and if you have any questions on these numbers, there was a more detailed report included in your packet as well. But this just gives you an idea of where our both our collections and the money we owe are at, and what's current and what is overdue.
Brian, what's compromising the 152 on the 91 and over?
We have a few different items that make up that amount, and I believe in that report in your commission packet, you can see which vendors that's supposed to actually come from. I don't have an answer specifically why that number is so high right now, but that's something that Deputy Administrator Carlson has made a high priority to make sure we get those collections. Then moving on to our utility revenue. This is the exact same slide the commission was presented last month. It was brought up that the auditors do have us move some money back from our January of 2018 utility collections back into December of 2017. So that's where you see the difference there. And that bumped us up to $13.5 million to finish out 2017. And then finally, one last report that was included in your packet as well, our general fund year-end snapshot. As you can see, we were under budget for 2017, both in expenses and in revenues. Our net total is $23,000 to the negative. And I do want to remind the commission as well, the departments do have until February 15th to get any invoices that they may have that were given to them at a later date that were dated in 2017 to go back to their 2017 budget. So these numbers could potentially change I don't believe we've seen any major expenses come in since this report. If the commission has any questions, I'll do my best to answer those at this point.
Any questions for Mr. Morey? I think you've answered them. Thank you.
Thank you.
And next item up, we have some reports from Mr. Kessel.
Do we need to approve the financial?
Oh, I guess we do, don't we? Thank you.
I would make the motion to approve the financial report.
Yes.
As presented.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the financial report.
Second.
Any questions or comments on the financial report? Hearing none, we'll vote. Mr. Altmans?
Aye.
Mrs. Trustum?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Financial report is approved. Now we'll move on to reports. Mr. Kessel.
Thank you, President Decker and Commission. The first item is the Southwest Water Citizen Interest Forum. We have another applicant for the open position on the Southwest Water Board. I believe that brings the total to 4 interested parties. You've received the previous 3 interested parties at previous city commission meetings. So the question before the commission for us as staff is we did advertise this in the paper along with our Special Assessment Commission openings. You know, unless there's active recruitment going on by others, I believe this is going to be the set of applicants that you have. So if you would like, we can certainly extend and try to advertise more, or you can take the time to do your due diligence and appoint somebody at the next city commission meeting. So I guess that's my question to you is what actions would you like to take in terms of following up on this item?
And at this time, all 4 are qualified, as we see it?
There's one, I would make 2 comments related to that. We have one person who does not live within the city limits of Dickinson currently. They are building a home and they will live inside the city limits, but until they are actually a resident of Dickinson, they are not eligible. And then we have another who has applied and is qualified, but has made the statement that they would not be able to attend meetings until June of 2018. So if appointed in March, they would accept that appointment, but not be able to actively attend Southwest water meetings until June.
Mr. President,
Mr. Steiner?
I personally don't think we need to spend any more money advertising it. You want to leave it open for another week or so and then have it ready for the next meeting. I'd be okay with that.
I would
I
too.
would too. So,
Okay, we'll take that as the action. Is that next commission meeting, we'll put it on as an action item that you
Okay.
can make a decision on. And in that memo, we'll identify the people that I just shared with you in terms of their eligibility for appointment.
okay.
And if
Thank
any
you.
additional come in between now and then. The next item quickly is the March Madness. This is the North Dakota League of Cities training that happens in Bismarck. It is currently slated to occur on March 6th and 7th. This obviously conflicts with our scheduled city commission meeting on March 6th, so I'm curious if any commissioners plan to attend that meeting. I believe Commissioner Oltmans will be absent at the March 6th meeting for other reasons. But if none of the rest of the commission is planning to attend March Madness, then we can continue to schedule our meeting and not affect. And there may be staff that attends, but I was concerned about a quorum.
Well, Mr. President, I can say I'm interested in attending, but I haven't made any plans to do so as of yet.
Okay.
So I can give you some more directions, so we have that before the next meeting for sure. So we can plan around that if we have to.
Does
Well,
the-
I know Mr. Altmans will be gone for that, and I guess I had planned on attending, but I don't want to adjust our meeting either, so maybe just make plan, maybe I'll just plan to travel down Wednesday and attend
Or-
Wednesday.
Could we look at possibly moving it to March 5th? That would be a Monday.
That was going to be my suggestion, Commissioner.
Okay.
Trust me.
And I would be fine with that also, if Mr. Steiner, I know Mr. Friedrich isn't here right now, but if Mr. Steiner's okay with the 5th.
Yeah, March 5th would be okay.
Well, we go ahead and move it to March 5th.
Okay.
Need a motion?
We would need a motion
Okay.
to change that. Yeah.
I'd look for a motion on moving the city commission meeting to March 5th.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion to move the city commission meeting to March 5th with a second. Any further discussion or questions?
Just to clarify, it's the March 6th city commission meeting. We're moving to March 5th.
To March 5th, yes. Not, we'll go ahead and vote. Mr. Altmans? Aye. Mrs. Trustum?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Our first meeting in March will be moved to the 5th.
Perfect. I think we're at 4:45 if you want me to pause.
Okay. Well, I think our first item is at 4:50.
Oh, you're right. Excuse me. I'll keep going. The next item then for the report is a thank you note that we received from Domestic Violence and Rape Crisis Center. We did provide them with, we pledged $1 million to that effort. They valued the home that they currently are living in, they're operating out of, and then we provided them the remainder in the form of a check. And so they did receive that, and they wanted to make sure that the commission was thankful, or received thanks for that donation. I also wanted to mention that part of the donation was relieving them of the responsibility of the home that they're currently making those operations out of. We do have at least 2 interesting options when it comes to that home, and so you're going to see this become an agenda item closer to when they'll be able to move out of their current facility and into their new facility. So that'll be a question that you can ponder as a commission, is how you'd like to divest yourself of that building in the near future. The next item is the hiring journal, and Ms. Namanak will provide that report for you.
Good evening, President Decker, Commissioners. The first item on the hiring journal is police officer. We have one person in the background phase. Currently, we reopened the position. That does close tomorrow, so we will be doing interviews on that soon. We'll have 2 open positions then. We had an administrative police lieutenant position open. That was an internal opening, a promotional position, and that has been filled with Sergeant Mike Cannell. Patrol sergeant, we had an internal position there. That also has been filled with Brandon Stockey. We have an animal control officer position. We're in the interview process for that at this moment. Records clerk, we had 1 opening for a full-time position, and we did make an offer on that. And the person started today, full-time. Fire lieutenant, we have 3 internal openings. It's a promotional position, and that position closes tomorrow, or today, actually. City forester, we have 1 opening. That is a position for this 2018 budget. We have had it open for a while. We extended it to March 8th, hoping to get a few more applicants for this position. Advanced computer technician, this is a new position for us. We just completed the interview process and made an offer. We're in the background phase right now. Street and fleet operations manager, that position is still open until the 27th. Still trying to get some applicants for that position. Street maintenance operator, we had 2 openings, and we did the interviews, made 2 offers, and they're both in the background phase right now. Senior street maintenance operator, that was a promotional position, internal, open only, and that has been filled. Solid waste landfill operator, we had 1 opening. That person, actually we had 2 openings recently. They both have been filled and have been working for us for a couple weeks already. And that is all the positions at this time. Any questions?
Any questions for Mrs. Namanak? Hearing none,
Thank
thank
you.
you. And Mr. Keo shows up just. So we have 450 Dickinson Band presentation. Mr. Keo.
Well, my name is Don, member of the commission, but actually I'm here with Robin Nadbornik, and she is the president of our city band board, and she will do the honors. I told her not to be nervous.
Then I thought he wasn't showing up, so. We just wanted to thank you for your allowing us to have a grant the past few years. It really helps us in being able to purchase music, pay a director, and continue a long-standing tradition in Dickinson with the city band and strings. That being said, we have a picture to present to you
Thank you.
for the city.
You can go ahead and bring it up to, I guess, go ahead and grab it from you.
While she's doing that, let me explain. That photograph was taken last May at
Oh,
our,
thank you.
our spring concert. We always
Go
have
over
a
there.
fall concert or winter concert and a spring concert. And if you look closely at the photograph, you'll notice that Dr. Larson, the late
I don't know, Brandon, you
Honorable
want to take a picture, or
Dr.
you gonna bring
Larson
your
is in
camera
that
tonight?
photograph.
Okay, all right.
And we were very
All
pleased
right.
to have him as part of our band for a number of years. He came out of retirement, so to speak, to play with us.
95 years old.
95. And he outplayed some of us. I won't mention any names, but he outplayed some of us.
Thank you again
Oh,
for your
you're welcome.
generous support. We certainly appreciate it.
Can you tell us about some of the events that you have coming up this year?
We have a concert in the spring, May 7th, it is, at the college that will be the City Strings and the band, and also the Prairie Rose Chorus, which I direct as a women's barbershop group. And it's just kind of nice to bring the community groups all together for one concert. And other than that, the new downtown executive director has come in and talked to me about in the future as they start planning to do their thing downtown, including the band possibly in some of those things. So we look forward to that as well, and
Perfect.
just being a part of the community.
Well, thank you very much.
Yes, thank you very
Tell
much.
them how many members we have.
I don't know.
You don't know. I think in that
I haven't
photograph,
counted. I'm not sure how many we have right now.
I think in the photograph there was about 35 to 40, more or less. We draw a few folks from out of town. Our drummer is up from the Kildare area, actually makes the trip down
Yep.
to rehearse mostly once a week.
And we also have several high school students that
I
are.
was just gonna ask if
Yep,
we have some
several
younger.
high school students actually that are coming in, as well as a mother and a daughter. There's a father and his daughter that have started coming. There's a young man from Belfield that comes in every week. And so, yeah, and we've gained probably 6 or 8 new ones this year again. So it used to be a real small group that's growing.
Sure. Can you tell us the requirements for somebody in the community watching this that would like to join?
You have to know how to play an instrument. We let Bob play with us, so you know.
They're very tolerant.
He sits right behind me. No, we, all ages really, high school and up. And, even if they haven't played for a long time,
Dr.
come in
Braun.
and, yeah, Dr. Braun that was at the college for years, 3 or 4 years ago, decided he hadn't played for years, didn't own an instrument.
40 years he hadn't played.
Right. Went out and bought an instrument and started playing as with us. When Dr. Larson came back, he went and took lessons from the band director at the college for a while just to refresh his memory and actually played very well.
Very good.
So,
And thank you for that question. We were hoping for a little PR about this, and we would like to invite all of you. You probably all played something once, and like so many people, they quit after high school, and we want those folks to come back because we don't play the most difficult music in the world, but we don't play the easiest either. But we try to work with people to bring them along because we want you to play. We want to have fun and put out a good quality concert for our listening audience. So we do appreciate anyone in the community that might want to give us a try. We practice every Monday night at about 7 o'clock. The strings, my wife directs the strings separately, and they start at 5:30, but we combine for what you might call our Dickinson Orchestra.
Orchestra.
Perfect.
And we especially need drummers, so if you've ever drummed in your life or something like that, percussionists, we really, really need, so.
Okay.
I heard
All
the
right.
mayor is pretty good with the gavel. And
Hey, there you go. We could teach him some rhythm.
Or bass guitar. Who plays that?
Hey, we'd probably even take that. But, no, we're open to just about anybody. I don't think we've ever told anybody to go home.
she's thought about it, though.
There's always a first time.
Right.
So it's a great honor to be
It
part
is.
of the city band, and we thank you very much for your support and support of Dickinson over many, many years. We have a large, kind of a photograph, but it's on a tapestry, you might say, that spreads out about, 30 feet,
Oh, yeah,
and it shows a picture of the band from back in
18,
it's 1929
is it
or
19?
so.
Okay, yeah,
A long time ago. And it's just amazing how long a band has been playing in town.
so, I think back from the late 1800s, actually. Is
Well, I
what
think
it's
we
been.
have a photo, an old
So,
photo, where they're marching
yeah.
in the parade.
Are you in that old photo too, Bob?
No, but I think Lawrence Schill is.
We think so, yeah. So, yep, come and join us. We have a lot of fun.
Thank
All
you.
right, well, thank you.
Thank you a lot.
Thank you.
All right, the next item up is the Downtown Dickinson Director. This is Jennifer Strange.
So, hi, Mayor Decker and Commissioners and City Administrator Kessel and Jan and everybody. And Robin just mentioned that we had the opportunity to chat a couple weeks ago, and Robin and the band is slated to, when and if we are all prepared for it, play the groundbreaking of the town square downtown. So they even talked about having that big banner there and maybe creating a commemorative event to coincide with the town square groundbreaking, should that happen. So how fortunate and coincidental. Well, thank you all for the opportunity to introduce myself to you, and let me begin by echoing what I know the DDA board has shared with all of you recently and often, which is thank you for providing the seed finances for the Downtown Dickinson Association to continue to nourish and grow our vision. And we're really excited to continue the robust discussions and actions toward localism that we have been part of, along with the City of Dickinson and Stark Development Corporation, Dickinson State University, the Chamber of Commerce of the Dickinson area, the Convention and Visitors Bureau, and several other agencies and organizations and individuals. The time is truly ripe for this type of focused revitalization efforts, and Downtown Dickinson Association is now, thanks to you, well poised to continue to advocate for and activate the type of cultural and economic development our downtown needs to attract and retain workforce, residents, and visitors. And we look forward to continuing this wonderful collaboration every step of the way. It's no secret that I'm on day 14, but the Downtown Dickinson Association has been very busy in those 14 days, and like everyone who starts a new job, I'm surrounded by piles of stuff. I don't know if I'll ever get to the bottom of it because we've just started going in lots of new projects. So our board president, Christy Schwartz, and I, along with many of the others in this room, were lucky enough to attend Governor Burgum's Main Street North Dakota Summit in Bismarck this past week. That was an excellent opportunity to meet and learn from other downtown associations from all over the state and to address our mission of increasing DDA's visibility beyond our city's lines. Also, we continue to build our foundational systems, such as a membership database and budget and accounting programs. Membership outreach has begun in earnest, and we continue to be deeply involved in the Town Square project. We are starting to explore potential grant funding as the Downtown Dickinson Association, in addition to supporting the grant applications and efforts of other stakeholders. We've attended very productive meetings regarding marketing, promotions, and event collaboration with the Dickinson Area Chamber of Commerce and the Dickinson Convention and Visitors Bureau. I thank both these organizations for their warm welcome as DDA begins to develop and implement our marketing and PR efforts. We're really excited to continue to work with the Downtown Events Group as we come together and collaborate and merge. It's no doubt that these ambitious and talented merchants have greatly enhanced our city's quality of life over the years through their wonderful events, and Downtown Dickinson Association is super excited to learn how we can continue to join forces and make downtown Dickinson an even more exciting place to be. And we'll keep you posted as those events and programs are scheduled. To wrap things up, we'd like to invite you to save the date of Thursday, March 15th from 4 to 9 p.m. Get ready for the annual I Wish You Were Here beer crawl. I dare you to say it 3 times fast. New this year will be non-alcoholic options at some stops, and all the folks who serve beer will have been certified through the City of Dickinson's alcohol serving training course. So that was something they decided at our meeting last week. I think that's a really exciting development. And on that note, thanks again, and don't hesitate to stop by my office at the Allstate Insurance Building. I'm happy to answer any questions or take any suggestions or comments you may have now or at any time in the future, and see you in dynamic downtown Dickinson.
Well, thank you and welcome aboard. Any questions for Ms. Strange?
Very good. Very good.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item up is Traffic Safety Officer of the Year, Chief Dossinger.
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the Commission. Senior Officer Ian Weiss has been selected as the 2018 North Dakota Traffic Safety Officer of the Year. The award is presented to the officer who has displayed significant contributions to traffic safety, to enforcement training, and education for the past year. Senior Officer Weiss demonstrated leadership in enforcement of traffic safety laws by issuing 379 citations and arrests, which consist of 91 speeding citations, 103 alcohol drug-related arrests, 26 felony arrests, and 32 suspended or revoked license citations. Senior Officer Weiss is passionate about traffic safety and consistently volunteers to work traffic safety overtime projects. Senior Officer Weiss is active in conducting seatbelt presentations at local elementary schools. At this time, I would like to present Senior Officer Weiss with his plaque from the North Dakota Department of Transportation for his achievements. Say a couple words?
I wasn't prepared to have to talk.
It's because he's busy. He's got to get back to work.
I appreciate the recognition. It's definitely a team effort. We're all out there doing our jobs every day.
Well, congratulations and job well done.
Thank you, sir.
Congrats.
Here, we have about a minute. Mr. Kessel, number 5 in the reports.
Sure. President Decker, this is a notice for the commission that there'll be a civil service meeting on March 5th. And the reason that we're reminding you of that date is because you've recently made appointments to the Civil Service Commission of Amanda Pearson and Terry Dvorak, and this will be their first meeting and kind of the welcome to the Civil Service Commission. So if you wanted to attend and welcome them, we thought we'd let you know that that's when the meeting will be held. So, so please come if you want. Let us know if you are, in case we have to advertise the meeting.
And what time is that again?
1 o'clock in the
1 o'clock.
afternoon.
So 1 p.m. March 5th, Civil Service meeting.
Correct, and they meet in this room.
Okay. We'll move on to our 505, and we have a presentation by KLJ, our West Side Traffic Study.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. My name is Josh Logring. I'm a traffic engineer for KLJ. I work out of our Valley City office, but I've done a lot of work in Dickinson. I worked for the DOT a number of years ago and did a lot of the signal work on Highway 22 during the, I guess, the peak of the oil boom, you'd say now. So I was excited to work on this project. Thank you for giving KLJ the opportunity to do this west side, or this traffic study focusing on the west side of Dickinson. Let me go to the next slide. With me, I got Stefan Jers. Was the technical lead for this project. He developed the study, developed the recommendations. He's our lead traffic signal designer, traffic operations analyst, and he's done studies like this for communities all over the state. So before we get into the recommendations, which Stefan is going to do here shortly, I just wanted to give you guys a general overview of the project, just so you're all familiar with it. The study area focused on 3 main corridors, 21st Street, and then State Avenue, and then as well as 30th Avenue in the I-94 Business Loop corridor. Within those 3 corridors, we focused on 15 intersections, 5 of which were signalized. So along 21st, we looked at the signals at Highway 22, State, and 30th. We also looked at 3 all-way stops, one on 10th and 21st, and then 2 on the State Avenue corridor at 12th and Empire. And then there were 7 additional 2-way stop control intersections kind of throughout the corridors that we also studied. So some of the main 6 inputs that we had in developing the study, developing the recommendations. First thing we did was went out and did a field review, where we went to each intersection, each corridor, observed traffic volumes, looked at the pedestrian facilities, took an inventory of the traffic signal equipment, just to get a good base, a good knowledge of what's out there today and what we're kind of working with. We included, in the study, we included the DOT crash data. So within the study, what we looked at was all the crashes that have occurred on those few corridors over the past 5 years. So that played into our recommendation as well. In October and November of 2017, we collected traffic counts at all 15 intersections, as well as some corridor counts between the intersections. And then we used those traffic counts for the traffic operations analysis and the traffic control analysis. The traffic operations portion of the study looks at the capacity of the roadway. So is the number of lanes appropriate? Are the turn lanes correct? Are they long enough? The traffic control analysis looks at traffic control. Is the traffic control appropriate? Does this intersection need a signal? Does it need an all-way stop or a 2-way stop? And so on. And so that, Stefan will get into the details here shortly. The last item is we collected speed data with the traffic count, so we get a good knowledge of how fast vehicles are traveling through these 3 corridors, and basically determine if the posted speed limit is correct, and we'll, again, dive into the details there on that shortly. So the current state of the study is it's still in draft form. We've gone over the draft with Craig and Sean, and made changes based on their comments, their review. And so tonight, we're hoping to get feedback from the commission so we can address your comments and your concerns in the recommendations, and hopefully finalize that study here in the next couple weeks. So the recommendations that Stefan is going to go over, we grouped them by corridor instead of just focusing on one specific intersection or a group of intersections. We wanted to look at the corridor as a whole, because the point of a study is to get traffic to flow throughout the whole corridor, not just one intersection working well. So we wanted all the intersections to work well together. And so as we go through this, like I said, we grouped the recommendations by the corridor. If you have questions as we go through, there's a lot of information. So if you have comments or questions, please bring those up as we go through the presentation rather than saving them all for the end. It should help kind of facilitate discussion. So with that, we'll just turn it over to Stefan.
Thank you, Josh. Thank you, commissioners. Okay, we'll dive right into 21st Street. The first thing I want to point out to you are these big red numbers, the 40, the -40, and the -30. These are just how much traffic has changed in the past 3 years alone. That -40, we're assuming that's mainly related to the new middle school, while that -40 and -30, that's just how much traffic has dropped in the past 3 years. I just wanted you to keep that in your head as we're going through these recommendations today, because this is what we're kind of basing everything off of. The first item I'd like to talk about is the video detection, and that's mainly at 30th Avenue. There currently is no detection, no video detection, no loops, no anything. So we recommend installing that. What that allows video detection to do is it allows the signal to be more flexible and adapt to current traffic conditions. Basically, if you're sitting here at a red light and there's no cars on 21st, it allows you to get to that green even sooner. We also recommend that PED facilities, mainly push buttons, recommend that the APS push buttons be installed. This will make them ADA compliant. We noticed that the push buttons at Highway 22 and then also on State Avenue were not compliant, so we recommend those updates. And then also, once connections are made at 30th Avenue, to install APS push buttons there as well. The next item is signal heads. Hop over to the next slide here. There's a few things we noticed with this. According to the MUTCD, in order to be compliant, you cannot have a green ball over a dedicated left turn lane. And you see that at Highway 22. So KLJ recommends that the flashing yellow arrow be installed over each left turn lane. Flashing yellow arrow is great in that it gives you flexibility. You can still run them permitted, like is going on at State and 21st, which is just the flashing yellow arrow, or you can run them protected, which includes that green arrow on the bottom. We also recommended that the signal heads be aligned according to common standards. Usually you have them centered over the left turn lane, or the through lane, the middle of the through lane. So we recommend just aligning those, keeping everything more uniform. The next item is traffic control. And this is mainly related to that drop in traffic that we see here. Currently, the intersection at 10th Avenue does not meet always stop control warrants. So we were recommending to revert that back to a two-way stop. Additionally, the signalized intersections at State and at 30th do not meet traffic control warrants. Now, we're not recommending that these signals be removed, rather that the city create a history, create a log to determine when and if they are met. And if they continue to not be met 5, 7, 10 years from now, we recommend that the city look into other alternatives, other control alternatives, because an unwarranted stops or unwarranted traffic signal can actually be disadvantageous to both traffic operations and safety. One of those alternatives would be a roundabout, and 21st Street actually sets itself up perfect to be a roundabout corridor with potential roundabouts at 30th, State, 10th, and 6th. Now, it's anticipated under current traffic conditions that the level of service would maintain at those stop controlled intersections, but actually improve at those signal intersections. The other great thing about roundabouts versus traffic signals or the standard four-way intersection is the reduction in conflict points that the roundabout has. Mainly, a roundabout brings that down to 8 conflict points for both vehicle to vehicle and vehicle to pedestrian, whereas a signal or a standard intersection is 32 vehicle to vehicle and 24. The other great thing about that is it eliminates the through and right angle crashes, which are often your more severe crashes, more injury-related crashes. With a roundabout, the only real crashes you have are the rear ends and then the side swipes, which are relatively minor.
May I ask a question?
Yeah, definitely.
When you guys consider a roundabout at an intersection, you also, I understand the contact points and the severity of crashes at roundabouts, but I look at States and 21st, and I see it surrounded by a swamp.
That, I know what you're saying, and
The cost to build that into a roundabout, I think that would be pretty astronomical to build that up. I might be wrong.
I wouldn't say it'd be out of the question, though. I mean, I know it's low around that area. I don't know if it ever funded. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I don't foresee it may cost a little more, but I don't see a big change in difference if it was just a normal area without some low areas around it. I mean, we build roundabouts, they're built all over the place. It's no different than a roadway than it is right now. It just takes up a little little bit more space, but it's still there.
The problem I see with the roundabout at State Avenue and 21st is, I think we just stuck about $500,000 into traffic lights there.
Yeah, and that's why we were just recommending that the city create a history, take traffic counts once a year, every other year. I'm not gonna say that an unwarranted signal would make the city liable for anything, but like Stefan said, an unwarranted signal, the longer it's in, the more likely that it's gonna have issues. You're gonna have operational issues, safety issues, and, so having that history, you're gonna, like I said, 5 years down the road, if it's still not warranted, maybe that would be the time to look at a roundabout, or another solution. Maybe it needs to go back to a stop sign. But,
And I
that's
guess-
essentially what we're recommending, is just to monitor these.
And maybe you can answer this, but maybe Mr. Kubis, is there a turn signal? Is there an arrow right now on 21st turning left up States going south? Is there an arrow there?
Towards the middle school.
If you're coming down 21st towards the middle school, if you want to take a left going south on States, I might be mistaken, but I don't, is there an arrow?
Do you remember?
Okay, there is an arrow, okay,
I don't think there is one there.
you know.
No.
No, turning, yeah, off 21st, going south on States. I don't think there's an arrow there. There's a turn lane.
There's a turn lane, but he's talking about.
But what I'm saying, the chief complaint is, that I've heard from citizens, is one person gets through
Yep.
per light. And there'll be cars backed up 10, 15 deep, and one car gets through every time.
So so the flashing yellow arrow, it allows you to do a lot of things. So you can give that, the majority of the day, you don't need a protected face there. It
Right.
can just be permissive. So the flashing yellow arrow, you can program that to do the flashing yellow arrow
Yep.
for 90% of the day.
Right.
And the other 10%, you give them a green arrow.
Okay.
So that's really the big benefit of that.
So that is something that we could implement.
And that's what we're
in that-
recommending that be
Okay.
done. Yes.
And that basically is the intersection, except for we're, on that picture right there, you're looking north towards the
Yes.
Public Safety Center.
Yep.
So it basically, if you were sitting off and turning up
Yep.
in there. But that would be the chief complaint that I've heard, is that one person gets through per light, per green light.
Specifically during the congestion.
Yes,
School hours.
8 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock at night, or 3:30, so, which this would give us the option to have those on and off.
Yes.
President Decker, if I could, my takeaway from that 21st corridor study really was the change in traffic volumes. And I think it's just something that's unique to what we dealt with for the past 6 or 8 years, was that those numbers were probably, plus 40%, plus 30% in the 3 years before we counted it in 2014. We don't have that historical data, but
Right.
we all felt that ramp up to 2014, and we probably counted that traffic about at the peak. And then, so when you have a 40% reduction, obviously some of the things, the improvements that were installed back in 15 and 16, based on the 24 counts, might look a little off. So I think it is wise to continue to monitor that. The city's investigating buying our own counters, so we can go back and recreate the counts that KLJ did here in the fall of 17, and have that historical log to look back at.
Thank you.
I'll get to the speed limits at the end. We'll kind of group them all together. But we'll move on to, get to the right slide here. Move on to State Avenue. Again, the big takeaways are that -40, that -50, kind of between 15th and 12th, and then that -30. Again, just drop in traffic. So the first item is traffic control. Similar to the signals on 21st, Fairway does not meet warrants. We recommend the same thing we did up on 21st. History, monitor them, see when they are met, and if they are met. We are also recommending the removal of the stop signs on State Avenue at Empire and 12th. This is mainly related to, again, volumes simply aren't there to meet the all-way stop warrants.
Can I back you up a second?
Yeah.
Go back to that. You're recommending removal of which stop signs?
We are recommending that State at Empire and 12th be,
The one on top of the hill, basically.
Yep.
Right.
And then the one
Okay.
down by the high school.
Okay, you're talking about removing that one.
Yes. Make it a two-way stop.
Pardon?
Make it a two-way stop on Empire.
So
Where would you make it a two-way? You'd take the stop sign away from 12th and keep the ones on State
Take,
Avenue?
No, actually,
remove
north and south would be a pass-through.
correct.
You would have to stop on 12 coming out onto State.
Oh, you're changing it to a two-way. You only got, it's a three-way now.
Well, you'd be stopping on the other side coming out of the extension agency too.
It's extension, so they,
Yeah, so.
two-way. So why have a stop sign there anyway, is what I'm asking. With one block south, and then 2 blocks, well, a couple blocks north of that again. I mean, that's been the question, is why are we, it's a congested area,
Mm-hmm.
you know. Why not move the traffic through there?
We actually observed this before we got here today. We observed the school release, the high school release. And what we found is that there's just so much congestion on State that there's actually cars waiting back here to allow vehicles to get on to State. Whereas if it was two-way stop, a free on State Avenue, that queue would be gone pretty much instantly because they could just pass through. So then those high schoolers getting out would get out even faster.
So you would agree that that could be removed?
I think that is their suggestion, is
Yep.
to remove it.
From an engineering standpoint, we recommend to remove that.
Okay. Super.
And then also, since we're on the topic, what we do recommend, we do realize that high school rec center, there are some peds crossing there. So we recommend to install in-roadway crossing signs. These are physical obstructions that people have to see. And they also remind people that they have to stop for pedestrians. This just relates to the capacity analysis, traffic operations. Up at 12th Avenue, you currently have 33 seconds of delay. Delay is related to the average weight each car entering that intersection has to get through it. Reverting that back to a two-way stop brings that all the way down to 9.4 in the morning and 3.3 seconds in the evening. Again, you're just prioritizing the cars on the street. And you kind of see that same effect at Empire. 18 seconds in the PM. Cars do move through it, but there is a queue that backs up, and that can be bumped down to 9.1 seconds. Level service A, which is what we're trying to obtain. Talked about pedestrian facilities. And then, so the next thing I want to talk about is signal heads at Fairway. Now, they're technically compliant with the MUTCD, but they're not necessarily the norm. There's two things we recommend here. We recommend to install the flashing yellow arrow, and that's mainly on each leg. That also, same thing we talked about at 21st, gives you the flexibility if you want to run protected. If you want to prioritize this to go to the rec center, you can. And then we also are recommending to realign these signal heads over the center of the lane. You can kind of see this one's shifted to the left a few feet. That's really helpful in times of bad weather, in snow, where you can't necessarily see the pavement lines. Your reaction is to line up to that signal head. So we recommend just, for the whole intersection, line these to the center of the lane.
Now, with those arms, Mr. Kubis, would those arms support an additional set of lights, those turn lights? Or are we ending up changing out the arms that are sticking out there?
No, I think these two lights would be still the only two lights, they would just move over.
Okay. So we wouldn't put a turn signal in the third lane going to, taking a left with a signal arrow?
Or you could just add a 4.
Yeah, it would. The furthest left head could get slid
Okay,
to the left.
slid all the way over, okay.
And I don't know if there's a signal head mounted on the upright pole. Suppose that,
I don't see one, so.
or that's just the pedestrian light.
No
But you
light.
could have one there for the right turning
Right.
lane to the community center.
Yep. One more thing I want to touch on here is this, similar to 21st, you also have the potential for a roundabout corridor here as well. Options to come to mind are Fairway Street, and then also a roundabout may work at Empire. Again, these are options for the city to more so a long-term solution. Now getting to our last one, the 30th Avenue and I-94 Business Loop. We don't necessarily have any hard recommendations for this corridor as it operates fairly smooth right now. However, the few things that we do want to address are pedestrian facilities. There's currently no pedestrian facilities south of the interstate. It seems like from an engineering perspective, like a prime candidate to update from a rural highway to an urban arterial. If that's ever done, it's recommended that pedestrian facilities, sidewalk, shared use path be installed at that time. And then we also recognize that this area of Dickinson is prime for growth. It's a growth area. So we recommend that the city monitor growth, and as growth happens, make changes, address them as they come. We also noticed during the field review that there is plans for a roundabout here. If that roundabout is put in on Fairway just off the I-94 Business Loop, we recommend that the intersection of at Fairway be a roundabout, mainly because roundabouts next to a roundabout, they play well together, traffic still moves through them. However, a traffic signal next to a roundabout don't, and that's mainly the cues, the stoppage that you get from a traffic signal back up another roundabout, and you kind of just create havoc there.
Stefan, if I could, we did just get an updated report from the DOT, who was doing a traffic study on exit 59, mainly focused on pedestrian facilities. And as Stefan noted, there are none south of the interstate. We have a nice shared use path north of the interstate. They do have some recommendations for what I'd call an interim solution to that, creating a pedestrian lane on the existing bridge, and then creating some sort of a connection, at least down to Fairway Street, maybe down to 8th Street, to tie into existing city sidewalks. So that is in the works on the DOT side as well.
And then getting back to that speed limits. No, it's general practice to have your speed limits within 5 miles an hour of your 85th percentile speed. Now, your 85th percentile speed, what that means is it's the speed limit at which 85% of the people are going at or lower. So we can kind of see 3 spots that really sticks out. On 30th Avenue, north of the interstate, you have a speed limit of 35, but 85% of people, most people, are going significantly above that. They're going around 44 miles an hour. On 21st, also by the middle school, speed limit of 35, they're going 41 miles an hour. And then also on 21st, near Highway 22, there's a speed limit of 25, but majority of the traffic is going 10 over for that. Now, these aren't hard recommendations we see on the right here. This is mainly more food for thought, as we know that there's more than just engineering in this. So we recommend that the city look at options of upgrading or upping the speed limit to within that 5 miles, to be within 5 miles an hour of the 85th percentile speed. It's recommended that the city work with the police, fire department, and any other entity that would have a say in that.
I have a question for you. So when you do, see these speed limits exceeding, at one point almost 10 miles over, if you do make that adjustment, do you see them continue to rise, or does it usually meet the needs of the driver?
Good question. Studies have shown that people don't necessarily drive for the posted speed limit, they drive for the environment. Mm. If it's wide open, if it's 4 lanes, there's no traffic there, they're often going to drive faster. Whereas State Avenue, for example, there's houses on both sides, they're going to drive slower because of that more congestion. So I don't think that raising the posted speed limit is necessarily going to change the way people drive.
Need to get Officer Wise on these streets.
Well, I guess I have a question then for Mr. Kubis or Mr. Kessel. When we put in 30th, were we constrained at the time by DOT to a certain speed limit? Did they instruct us that we had to be at a certain speed limit there?
We were, Mayor Decker, that roadway was put in by the DOT.
Right.
It was actually their roadway up until maybe just last year, whenever the permanent bypass was completed. That was their roadway for them to post their speed limits. And the past district engineer and I had talked about raising the speed limit, understanding that especially southbound vehicles, when you're going downhill on a mile-long downhill grade, 35 is kind of a tough one to hold at. So now the roadway is the city of Dickinson's. They've passed that on to us and taken over the permanent bypass. So implementing recommendations like this, well, not bad practice to bounce it off the DOT. They would be the city's, it would be the city's decision to make.
I had just remembered something at the time when we put that in, that we were under their rules, so.
Right.
Well, and if we,
No, I think, that recommendation, especially for that section of road, would be appropriate to increase it there.
and if we make the modifications they're suggesting, it's definitely doable, I think, to relook at some of these speeds.
There were certainly many more access points and much more traffic anticipated on that road that would have gave you that congested feeling, and probably had you feel more comfortable driving 35 instead of feeling comfortable at 45.
And that concludes our presentation, so I'll open it up to more questions.
I have a question on exit 59. That one is dicey, coming either way. If you're trying to go into and up to Menards, or if you're coming into town, it's hard to make those turns. And if we increase the speed, is it going to be more difficult, less difficult? We'll get traffic cleared out more quickly so that it's easier, or? And then the visibility on that bridge is hard at best if you are exiting, heading west, and needing to turn left. You probably come in on it every day, so you know what a nightmare that can be either way.
Commissioner Oltman's, it's really turned into, to a lesser degree, what exit 61 was the decade prior, where,
which was horrible.
if you were eastbound and wanted to make a left, it was really, really difficult. I honestly, I haven't been able to have a chance to read through that entire traffic study that the DOT did on the interchange, if there's other recommendations that they were proposing. I just know they had made the recommendation on the pedestrian facilities. That's what kind of spurred that study on. But we'll take a look at what they have and probably have a subsequent report on exit 59 improvements, because there's some visibility things, and I know the long-term fix is a new bridge that probably is more like exit 56, where it's a little bit flatter. You tend to have better sight lines, where this one is, I think, just an older style design that you don't have that sight distance. The guardrail is, especially in a passenger vehicle, the guardrail is kind of in the way. Vehicles can come up over the bridge pretty quickly on you. And again, we have the ability to, if we would want to implement a higher speed on 30th, we would still have that ability to say, once we get down to the interchange, maybe that is where we go back to 35, but
Sure.
from Westridge Drive on, it could be 40 or 45.
Or even choke it down more, down to 25, going across the, to slow people down so you can see somebody coming across from the north and you're trying to make that left-hand turn. So.
You're right. It's our new exit 56, and exit 56 is so much better. I remember coming home from Medora with a camper. You'd never take exit 56 because you can never turn left on that one. You can now. It does flow, but 59 is.
It's getting to be tough. So
It is.
I think, I'm sure the DOT's looked at these things. I need to be able to take some time to go through that report and then report back to you on what they've found.
Okay.
For
For that I
improvement.
actually get calls on.
Yeah.
I haven't gotten calls on some of the other things that I do on that
Any more questions for the gentleman from KLJ? I appreciate your work. I think there's some very good things in this report. I think there's things that'll make some people very happy. We've all heard the different calls up and down states and 21st, so we appreciate the work you've done, and hopefully Mr. Kubis and staff can put together a comprehensive list of changes that we can do. So, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Kessel, you have a couple more items in your reports.
Thank you, President Decker. Just two additional items. The first is the Main Street Summit, and Ms. Strange gave a brief report on that Main Street Summit. There were several hundred people that did attend that Main Street Summit in Bismarck. Dickinson was well represented. I think we had 9 or 10 people. We are going to do kind of an after-action report, so to speak, get everybody together that did attend and talk about what we all learned and maybe some changes that could be made to make downtown vitality a priority, maybe streamline some bureaucracy that is imposed by the city, by the state, by the county. We want to make sure that we're looking at all those things to make it as easy as possible to operate and own a business in Dickinson, and specifically in the downtown. So actually, Ms. Binstock is trying to create a meeting with all those involved. Commission President Decker attended, Commissioner Jennings Trustum attended, Ryan Gillick, Tom Mitzel from DSU, the aforementioned Ms. Strange, Christy Schwartz was in attendance, Deb Nelson, and Senate Majority Leader Rich Wardner and I are the people that we're going to try to get together. We'll also take what we learned from that experience, and the Downtown Task Force will also be receiving that information to bring that forward for potential recommendations for change.
I thought it was a great conference, and well worth attending, and I think there's a lot of things that came out of it that we can implement within the city. And a matter of fact, I think there's a couple of the speakers there I wouldn't mind bringing to Dickinson and have our business leaders and area leaders listen to them. I think they did an excellent job.
To follow up on that comment, Commission President Decker, we have now made application to be a Main Street community. Ms. Strange did make that on behalf of the city of Dickinson, and we are planning to have the governor come to our community, make a presentation. We're going to try to coincide that presentation with the DSU's visit that will be happening and a downtown task force meeting. So tentatively we have some dates, but I'm not going to release them yet until we get confirmation of those dates. The last item that I have then is the TR Presidential Library meeting. You might have noticed that Commission President Decker and I are a little less casual than we normally are to attend City Commission meetings, and that was because of the meeting at the Medora Rough Rider Hotel today. It was a good meeting to talk about the overall picture of the TR Presidential Library. The discussion really focused upon the question of how high is up, how big of a project, what is the vision for the project, what are we trying to accomplish by constructing a library, is this the best place to build a library. It was really good information that the board is going to take with them to their March meeting in Minneapolis, and it sounds like a decision with regard to location will be made at that time. The commission, or the board, did make a site selection in 2015 that was located just north of the DSU campus and south of the current public high school. But they are revisiting that site selection because of some donors that have come to the table and may want to provide some significant funding to make this idea a reality. So that board will be making the decision, it sounds like, in March. And we certainly have been advocating and hoping that the current site remains the future site for the TR library. So with that, I'll close on my report and try to answer any questions that the commission may have on any of the things that I have presented.
Any questions for Mr. Kessel?
Just a comment regarding the TR library. I think that gives us some food for thought too, as I think we're, what were we talking about, $3 million?
Yeah, Commissioner Steiner, we have made a couple of commitments. The first one is a matching grant for $3 million. 10% of that, $300,000, they have used for operating revenue. We also have made a matching grant to redo the Elkhorn Ranch, $350,000. We've committed 50 up front. We have not paid that 50 out yet. There's not been a request made. So our total is $350,000 in support of the project.
With a commitment of $3 million.
Correct. That secures $6 million from the state.
Yep. So, you know, I don't know how my feeling is yet about committing that kind of money out of the city of Dickinson. You know, something we're gonna have to ask ourselves. You know.
No. And once the final site is selected, depending on the location, we might have that question in front of us. So,
Definitely.
any other questions for Mr. Kessel on any of his reports?
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Move on to public safety. We have nothing from the fire department this evening. We have a presentation and a staffing request from the police department.
Good evening again, Mr. President, members of the commission. Tonight I'm before you with a proposal, the Southwest Narcotics Task Force and the Dickinson Police Department. You have heard through various presentations at city commission meetings and the recent State of the City address some of the problems and challenges that we're facing with the illicit drugs in our community. Our main goal with this proposal is to maintain the existing staffing levels with the Southwest Narcotics Task Force. In your memo, in your commission memo, you have a detailed synopsis of the problems and concerns that we are facing in our community, and that the proposal that I have before you, and the city absorbing a criminal analyst position and reallocating one of the positions which is designated as a truck regulatory officer to be assigned as a task force operator. You got a brief PowerPoint that's going to kind of highlight some of those the bullet points for that. The Dickinson Police Department views the amount of heroin, fentanyl, and other illicit drugs in our community as a great threat to public safety. And I think you've all heard that in several presentations done to the City Commission and to the public. At the February 6th, 2018 City Commission meeting and at the recent State of the City address, you heard about the challenges and dangers our community is facing related to heroin, fentanyl, and other illegal drugs. And I think BCI agent Rob Fontenot and Travis Holdneagle did an excellent job in presenting those facts and concerns to you. Objective as a city, as a community, and as a police department, we need to be a team and make a point that we're not going to stand by while drug dealers sell illicit and very dangerous substance to our families, to our children. We're taking a stand saying that this isn't the place that you want to sell drugs because we are active and we will arrest you. In order to do that, to remain effective, we need the resources to do our jobs. Our proposal, as I said, is an addition of 2 positions for the city of Dickinson, but in reality it's really 1. The task force officer position would be a reallocation of a position. The current truck regulatory position that is designated to do those duties would be slid over to the task force operator position. The criminal analyst position, that would be a new position, which would require funding help from the city commission and the city. The task force officer position, the target for that position would be to target, investigate, and arrest individuals who organize, direct, finance, or otherwise engaged in illicit drug trafficking enterprises. The criminal analyst position, that would be a support position assigned to work with the patrol, criminal investigative division, and the drug task force. The position is tasked with analyzing and organizing confidential intelligence information for officers that is either entered into storage management systems or the police department, and or shared amongst officers at information sharing meetings. Basically, this would be a shared position between the Dickinson Police Department and the Southwest Narcotics Task Force. They'd not only working with the Southwest Narcotics Task Force, but they'd be working with the Criminal Investigating Unit of the Police Department and also our Patrol Division. Team roles and responsibilities. As you can see, a task force officer, right now we have one task force officer assigned to the police department. They're assigned to the drug task force. That would be 2 positions assigned as task force officers under the Dickinson Police Department, assigned to the Southwest Narcotics Task Force. These officers are supervised by the task force, but remain City of Dickinson employees. The analyst position, again, they would be City of Dickinson employee. That position would both be supervised both by the City of Dickinson and also by the Southwest Narcotics Task Force. Kind of the cost analysis and what it would cost in order to do this project. The task force officer position, as I said, would be a budget neutral for the City of Dickinson. The cost you see up there includes salary and benefits. Benefits was estimated at 30% of the salary position. The analyst position would have a cost of about $66,000 to the City of Dickinson with salary and benefits.
Which one are you saying we could absorb?
We would absorb the task force officer position. That would be a position that would be reallocated. The criminal analyst position would be a new position for the City of Dickinson.
And when you say that cost, you're talking salary, benefits, retirement,
Correct.
health, everything.
30%, correct. In a summary, like it says, we are requesting 2 positions, but it's actually 1 for a new position. The task force officer position is budget neutral and would be a reallocation of an existing position. The criminal analyst position would not be budget neutral and would have a cost of a little over $66,000 annually to the City of Dickinson. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions for Chief Dawson?
I don't have any questions necessarily, like Chief Dossinger stated. You know, I think that they've done a really good job at not only sharing what it is they do and how important they are to the community, but they've also been out in the community, whether that be giving status updates here at the commission meetings or the presentation done by at the State of the City put on by the Chamber of Commerce. Personally, you know, we had North Dakota Attorney General Wayne Stingham do a presentation at the State of the City, and he really vocalized the importance of having these people in our region to combat some of the issues that we're seeing. I think we need to do whatever we can as a city to support not only our local police force, but to make sure that this program doesn't die.
I would agree with that, and I would take it, Chief, that you have talked to Mrs. Carlson about a funding source.
I have busted into her office a couple of times, yes.
I figured you have. So, you know, if we can find the appropriate funding for this, I do think we need to bring this on board. And bear in mind that we also, during last year's budget season, we also have, we had a request for 2 additional firefighters, which hopefully we can find, depending on sales tax receipts, we can maybe give them the additional relief they need to. So it's all, you know, with public safety in mind, everything we're doing here. So, and this is a huge item after what, you know, Mr. Stingham said. It is, it's mind-boggling what's on our streets. So
It is.
But if you have found the appropriate funding source, then Mrs. Carlson, if you provide us, you had any information that we
Not
can-
at this time, I had not any
Okay.
information. I was kind of looking for a direction of where you would like to look at, if we need to look at it, or if you want me to come with a recommendation.
Wouldn't the obvious source come from the general fund into the police department budget?
Right, it'd
That's
come
where
out
they
of the
get their
general.
budget anyway.
Right, it'd
which
come out of
is-
general fund, but what are you gonna use to support the general fund? Where's it gonna come out of to put in the general fund? That's,
Right.
Property,
that's where I'd have to come in and,
property taxes, like everything else we fund out of the general fund.
Commission, you know, this year, it's very unlikely that we will fill all the vacant positions that we have.
Right.
So, more than likely, would have a budget impact in 2019 rather than 2018. It is very unlikely that we'll be able to fill all the spots that we have vacant currently in the police department.
And currently you have 2 openings?
I believe we have 3 right now.
3? Okay.
Chief, let me ask this question. I think I did, but I'm not quite. In the event of an arrest or something like that, and you come across cash, does that stay with the city?
What you're talking about there is asset forfeiture.
Asset forfeiture.
And no, that does not stay with the city. It depends on the situation. A lot of times that is tied up in the court
So it
system.
goes directly to the state?
No, it doesn't go directly to the state. Basically, it gets tied up in the state court system depending on where that money goes. Sometimes that money will go to the drug task force. The city of Dickinson usually never receives any of those dollars.
Is there anything that we can press in the state legislature coming up to change some laws to where asset forfeiture like that comes directly back to the city to put back into this type of?
I think what you will see in the future will actually go the opposite direction, Commissioner Steiner, where the asset forfeiture dollars will directly go to the state of North Dakota rather than to the local entities. Asset forfeiture is a huge topic right now, kind of a sore topic with a lot of people. So I do expect that the asset forfeiture part of it go away for local municipalities, actually.
And this strikes right at what I had mentioned at the State of the City. Talk about increasing our sales tax from the 1.5 we now collect as a city, which we had reported this evening, and pushing that up another 0.5. I'm not gonna say 5%. 0.5 to make our sales tax, our city sales tax, just an even 2. And dedicating that 0.5 to a safety tax to meet these needs, to meet the fire department, meet our first responders, meet our dispatch. This is an item that we need to address, and it's not going away. And the biggest problem right now is, like you said, is your human resources, your officers.
Correct.
So, we can find the appropriate funds, which, you know, as Mr. Steiner says, more than likely it's coming out of general. We just have to offset that salary. And, but I do think this is something we seriously need to consider.
Chief Dossinger, I have one more question. In regards to bringing those positions in-house, how does that reflect in the future what we can get from federal funding that funded these positions before? If absorbing them, are we still eligible for those grants if those federal ties are?
We would continue to apply for those federal grants in the future, even though that we absorb them positions.
Okay, great. So they would still qualify.
Yes.
That's great.
Okay. Any further questions? Mr. Kessel?
Chief Dossinger, the staff that's currently occupying those positions that are part of the task force, are they still filled, or are they vacated based on funding level?
Currently, those positions are filled. At the last task force board meeting we had on February 7th, it was determined that we have about 5 months of funding left at the current, if things continue as they are, and possibly up to 9 months. But it is kind of a time-sensitive item to keep those positions going.
So my next question would be, of course, would those folks apply to be the Dickinson police officers and/or analysts, assuming we can find the dollars to do that? My assumption is they would apply for those positions.
That's correct. Those positions will be opened up internally and externally within the city, and we would take applications. Obviously, that they have a special skill set, they do well in the process, but we would open them up internally and externally.
So it's, as I've heard the commission talk tonight, it is your priority to have staff find a way to fund those positions so that it is seamless, assuming that they apply and assuming that they are hired in those positions. that we don't lose those folks. Is that, because then Deputy City Administrator Carlson and I and the chief can start looking at scenarios to try and make that happen. That's what I'm assuming you guys are suggesting for a future vote.
Yes.
Right.
Well, I think they're looking for some action this evening. Am I not correct?
Certainly, we would certainly like to see the approval for the criminal analyst position if
Okay.
we can find a funding source.
Yeah, okay. So just
Yeah.
approving the position basically to this evening, so, okay. Any other questions or comments for the chief? Not, I'd look for a motion.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion to approve the staffing request with a second. Any further questions? Not, we'll vote. Mrs. Trustum?
Aye.
Mr. Altman?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
Thank
have
you.
a position.
Thank you.
I think you're still up.
I am. In the commission memo, you will find a request for proposal for the Dickinson Police Department's virtual judgmental use of force and weapons simulator training system project. The RFP is related to purchase of a virtual scenario-based firearms training system, which will be used to train DPD officers and other law enforcement officers in the region. This system will ultimately be based and operated out of a dedicated room located at the Public Safety Center. Presentation on the simulator project was made at the October 16th, 2017 commission meeting. This is an item that was approved for funding. The Dickinson Police Department requests a motion to approve the RFP so we can send that out.
Thank you, Chief Dossinger. Any questions for Chief Dossinger on this? I know this is a long time coming,
Yeah.
so I'd look for a motion.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion to approve the RFP with a second. Any further questions, comments? Hearing none, we'll vote. Mrs. Trustum?
Aye.
Mr. Altman?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. All right, we have Mr. Kubis up.
Thank you, President Decker, Commissioners. The first item we have, and again, we had slightly revised this in our order of business to be an action item, is a grant submittal to the DOT for what they're calling their Urban Grant Program. This is a new program that was just initiated in the tail end of 2017, and it focuses on North Dakota's urbanized areas. It's an 80-20 grant program that looks to invest inward toward the established community rather than on outward expansion. Through discussions with city staff and the Downtown Dickinson Association, along with the Downtown Dickinson Task Force, we've decided that an appropriate project to submit for these dollars would be a lighting project along Villard Street. The project would extend from State Avenue to 10th Avenue East, and the lighting styles would vary from the black poles that we've installed along a lot of our main corridors to a more decorative, shorter, more intimate pole style as we move towards the core downtown areas. You can see on the map that we have here, those regular, what I call the standard black poles, would be on the east and west ends. Then as you move closer towards the Renaissance zones, we maybe have a mix of those standard black poles that are about 30 feet tall with some of the more decorative ones like you see in the downtown park and along the State Avenue Railroad Bridge. Then when we get to that core, roughly 3-block area in the downtown area, it'd be more dense, shorter poles, some of the post top mounted poles that are only 10 or 12 feet tall, more what I'd call period lighting that looks like the comes from the time that would match the styles of the buildings that you have down there. We also felt that this lighting project along Villard was a good candidate for this program because one, it benefits a lot more people. It benefits everyone downtown, but a lot more people than that. And since we're just getting underway, we just made that RFP selection for a downtown consultant to look at the downtown plaza. We hate to invest a lot of dollars in there and then find that plan evolves and we end up revising some of the things. So it was a criteria of the DOT that this be a standalone project, that you don't need to do more than this. So if we never got another grant dollar for this and we had new beautiful lighting on Villard Street, we think that would be a great standalone project as well. There are about approximately 150 streetlights that would be installed with this project. As we dug into this, it really made some sense to look at replacing the 2 signalized intersections at Highway 22 and at Sim Street as well. And then we have the pedestrian crossing by the Simonsons. So we have some older faded yellow posts out there that we'd like to all replace with the nice matte black posts that we've been using recently. The estimated cost for the project is roughly $2.5 million. The local share would be about $500,000 of that. And if it were funded, we would anticipate this to go in 2020 for construction. The DOT is soliciting projects for 19 and 20. I have to believe that some of the communities that are looking at 2019 construction year projects probably have some shovel-ready things that we don't have those ready. So I think it's a wise decision to put in for a 2020 construction dollars, and you'll see that in the next agenda item, how that fits with our 5-year DOT program. So with that, I'd open it up to any questions. Obviously, staff would recommend that we have your concurrence and approval to move forward with this grant submission. I would add that I emailed out the draft that we have to you just before the commission meeting. If there's any wording in there that you think is really good, Ms. Strange wrote it. So thank you, Jennifer, for helping out in some of this. The DOT it's a little different grant application. There's a lot of engineering items, but then there's a lot of items that I call the softer items on how this transportation investment will really benefit the business community and the downtown area. And she did a fantastic job filling in some of those blanks for me. So again, with that, I'd open it up for any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Kubis?
I think it'd be a great project. It would definitely change the look and feel of Villard. And
I guess my feelings, I agree with the lighting project. It needs to be updated on Villard. Are there any sidewalk repairs while we're investing in this and doing this lighting? Is there anything along the sidewalks that we could also, I mean, if you're gonna be tearing sidewalks up and parts of the streets, is there anything that we had planned on sidewalk-wise along Villard?
There's one area that's actually void of sidewalks right now that we would certainly do.
But that would be something separate we'd have to budget for.
We could do it as part of the project.
Okay.
There are, most of these areas we intend to, if it works, to replace the light in its existing location. So our disturbance to the existing sidewalk would be minimal. But then, like I said, as we get closer to the core downtown area, that lighting will become smaller and more dense. So we'll be tearing up some sidewalk. I think anything that is a trip hazard and ADA will replace sidewalk like that. In 2013, when the DOT did their resurfacing project, they implemented all the ADA ramps at every intersection in this stretch. So we're taking care of on that front on the ADA ramps. There's a few parking lot areas that have really wide entrances. We can take a look at that, but that really starts to affect off-street parking, and I don't want to muddy the waters. It would be great to just get the lights in.
Yeah.
So minimal sidewalk, I guess, would be the short answer.
Any other questions for Mr. Kubis? And I think this is something we need to have some action on, if I'm correct, right? You need me to sign?
You are correct, because the application itself to go into the DOT is due this Friday, and it needs to be signed by the highest elected official in the local public agency, that being President Decker.
Okay. Well, I guess.
I think you should do it.
All right. Well, I need approval to do it, so.
I'd make a motion that you sign the
Sign the
grant
grant?
submittal.
All right, we have a motion to have me sign the grant submittal
Second.
with a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. Mr. Altman?
Aye.
Mrs. Trustum?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
Thank you. I would just add too on this, we've reached out to, again, Ms. Strange with the Downtown Dickinson Association, President Mitzel at the university, and to Mr. Jillick at Stark Development to get some letters of support for the project. I think that'll be important to the DOT to know that we have a project that has not only city support, but community support as well. So the next item I have for you today is another DOT submittal. It's not a competitive grant like the urban grant program. This is just an urban road submittal. We go through this every year with the DOT, and they ask us what project we want to do out in the 5th year of the plan that they call their STIP, the Statewide Transportation Improvement Program. By the time that's finalized, it ends up being a 4-year plan, so we're looking out really at year 2022 for this project. And through some discussion with the Public Works Department, we've chosen 4th Avenue East, and this is a short stretch of 4th Avenue East in North Dickinson from 21st Street to 26th Street. And we feel this is a great project to tackle with our urban roads dollars. One, because it's been started in, we had project development begin on this actually in 2013. And with all the other big construction projects that happened, this one kind of got put on the back burner. It's hanging in there, and we think it will continue to hang in there through that construction year of 2022. Just wanted to show you that this is really or this will be the DOT 5-year plan for Dickinson. The first 2 projects actually use federal fiscal year 2017 funds. The projects we're going to be constructing in 2018 though, and that's 8th Street South. We've talked about that project in the past. That project's been bid and let already. And then we have the trail project up by 10th Avenue East and 21st Street. Again, using 17 funds, we'll construct in 18. The next box is really a little bit difficult to read, but those are our programmed projects from 18 to 21. And the first line is a seal coat project. We're going to construct that in 2018 as well on a lot of the new asphalt pavement streets that we have in Dickinson. The next item is a regional project, and you can see in that last column, the local share is 0 for that project. It's a DOT-led project where they're going to mill and overlay Highway 22 south of the Heart River, basically to the corporate limits of Dickinson. In 2019, we'd have 2 urban roads projects, and these are on our list already. And it's mill and overlays on 12th Street from essentially Trinity to State Avenue, and another mill and overlay on 10th Avenue West, north of the interstate from 15th to 21st Street. They're 2 relatively small projects. Our total contribution would be around $400,000 on those 2. So we'd anticipate bidding those together in 2019. In 2020, we would have the Villard Lighting project that we just spoke about. Then in 2021, we have another regional project, that one being the East Business Loop. We had that project programmed for 2018 construction and pushed that off, and that'll be a larger project where the city will have a 10% investment estimated at just a little over $2 million. So that would be the 21 project, and in 22 would be this 4th Avenue East reconstruction project. So just wanted to kind of give you a little history. I know sometimes these projects just come up because once we start talking about 4th Avenue East again, it's going to be a couple years down the road when we really need to dig into it. But the DOT does a great job of having a very consistent, methodical 5-year plan. And so sometimes when we talk about these things, then it kind of goes out of sight, out of mind for a while, and then they're like, oh, 4th Avenue East is coming up again. So just trying to give you the whole picture of what we're doing with the DOT dollars in the next 5 years. With that, I'd open it up to any questions you might have.
Any questions for Ms. Kubis? Thank you, Ms. Kubis. Great report.
Thank you.
We have nothing from Mr. Zuroff, Mr. Hadley, or Mr. Schwint. We do have an item in 10. under commission, and that is an executive session. So, Mrs. Murtha.
Mr. President, I would be requesting that the commission move for executive session for attorney consultation pursuant to the citations listed in the agenda, 4404, 19.1, subsection 2, and 4404, 19.2, related to the Koenig case. I will say that for the public record, that a notice of appeal has been filed from the district court judgment, and myself and outside counsel wanted to convey some thoughts regarding next steps and surrounding issues with the deeds.
And we need a
Mr.
motion.
President,
Yes, please.
I move we move into executive session.
Second.
We have a motion to move to executive session pursuant of NDCC 44-04-19.1, paragraph 9, and 44-04-19.2, with a second. Go ahead and vote. Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mrs. Trustum?
Aye.
Mr. Altman?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. We're moving to executive session. Second regular commission meeting. We'll move on to agenda item 11. That is public issues of city concern not on the agenda. Anyone from the public would like to come forward? Seeing no one from the public, we'll close the public issues. And I guess we already dealt with commissioner issues, so unless there was something that commissioners did want to bring up before we adjourn.
Do we have a comment from executive session that needs to be made, or?
I'll just state for the record that I've received guidance from the City Commission with regards to this matter. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Any other items, commissioners?
Move to adjourn, Mr. President.
Second. Motion adjourned in a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned.